Week number 7 kicked off with a beautiful matchup in the Unk Bowl, the Cincinnati Bengals defeating Aaron Rodgers and the Pittsburgh Steelers. In today's video, I'm going to help you guys right your wrongs from Thursday Night Football, or maybe build on the lead you already got. Some of you guys might have gotten hit with the 5-knuckle shuffle of Jamar Chase. Some of you have Jamar Chase, and you are feeling incredible. In today's video, I'm going to help you guys set your lineup at the quarterback and the tight end position. We're to break down my top 20 quarterback and tight end rankings and tiers for week number 7 of the 2025 fantasy football season. Before we can get into things, though, if you guys do end up enjoying today's video, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button down below. Like it owes you some money. I love you guys more than you will ever know. Hope you guys do enjoy. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. We begin with the quarterback position with my quarterbacks 1 through 3, the must-start quarterbacks inside of tier number 1, Jayden Daniels, Dak Prescott, as well as Patrick Mahomes. Now, Jayden Stormy Daniels has the best matchup for a quarterback on a per-game basis going up against the Dallas Cowboys in Jerry's world. Now, this season so far through the first 3 games for Jayden Daniels have been relatively mid, but last week we really saw the Jayden Daniels that we thought we were going to get based upon where he was drafted in fantasy drafts. Quarterback 5 up against the Chicago Bears in prime time, 3 touchdowns, 1 interception, over 200 passing yards, as well as 52 rushing yards. Going up against the Dallas Cowboys, like I said, is the easiest matchup on paper for a quarterback in a matchup that could end up being the highest scoring game of the week. I love Jayden Daniels this week. At number 2, we got Dak Prescott going up against the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders in that exact same game. The 10th best matchup for the quarterback position. Now, with Dak Prescott, he has been relatively consistent this season outside of week 1, where the offense really was not being the best up against the Philadelphia Eagles. If you remember, CeeDee Lamb had all those dropping issues. Dak Prescott himself looked good in that game, but the stats were not very good. Outside of that, and week number 3 up against the Bears, he's been the quarterback 5, quarterback 1, quarterback 3, and the quarterback 6. In a great matchup this week up against the Washington Commanders defense in what could end up being a barn burner, the highest scoring game of the week. With him getting CeeDee Lamb back, I am feeling real nicey about Dak Prescott this week. At number 3, we got Patrick Mahomes going up against the Las Vegas Raiders at home in Kansas City. Quarterback 4-1 over the last 2 weeks. All but 1 game inside the top 6. I was as wrong as it gets on Patrick Mahomes. I've been talking about how, hey, Patrick Mahomes has been on a bit of a skid over the last couple of years. If you drafted Patrick Mahomes at ADP over the last few seasons, you have been nothing short of disappointed. But this season, he has been dominant 50 Shades of Grey style. He faces the Raiders this week in a game where they could be favored by 3 touchdowns, and no one would be shocked at all. In terms of a matchup at the quarterback position, this is the 24th best matchup, but he gets Rashee Rice back. I expect the Kansas City Chiefs offense to be firing at all cylinders, and I expect Pat Mahomes to finish as a top 3 quarterback on the week, and honestly, a top 6 quarterback at minimum. Now we move on into the mid-range quarterback ones, tier number 2. Jalen, stop, it hurts. Baker Mayfield, Draco May, as well as Caleb Williams. Now, Jalen Hurts this season, you know, the Eagles offense has definitely been a thumbs down gladiator style over the last 2 weeks. And honestly, this season, the Philadelphia Eagles offense really hasn't been truly percolating. But even with the offense not looking at its best, Jalen Hurts has been very reliable for you a majority of the season. He's been a top 8 quarterback in 3 of 6 games and a top 14 quarterback in 5 of 6 games. Going up against the Minnesota Vikings, going up against Carson Wentz in a revenge game for Carson Wentz. I am definitely very interested to see how this one does end up playing out. In terms of a matchup up against the Minnesota Vikings, this is one of the worst matchups for quarterbacks, but again, when you have a quarterback that has as much rushing upside as Jalen Hurts, when you have a quarterback that could just get tush-pushed 3 or 4 times into the end zone all on the same exact possession, then Jalen Hurts is just always going to be ranked this highly. Then we got Baker Mayfield Mayfield going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. Just another game that could end up being the highest scoring game of the week. I expect fireworks out of this matchup. Shout out to Katy Perry. Now, Baker Mayfield's wide receivers right now are just as unknown as it gets. There was a report earlier today on Saturday that Mike Evans was going to be in, and then they kind of X'd that out by saying that he was going to be out. And now we're kind of in limbo with maybe it's a game time decision for him, and now maybe Emeka Egbuka is going to play. So your guess is as good as mine. What ends up happening? I think Egbuka will miss, and I think Mike Evans should play. But the fact that they ruled him out earlier and then kind of said, Dikembe, no, actually he might play, kind of tells me that he's probably not going to end up playing. Baker Mayfield could end up with his wide receiver one being General Sterling Shepard or Tez Johnson. Regardless, though, the guy just continues to put up humongous numbers regardless of who is out there. Bucky Irving is in there. He's playing great. No Bucky Irving. He looks great. Mike Evans is in there. Mike Evans isn't in there. Regardless, he looks great. He even looked good without Egbuka for a lot of last week as a top 12 quarterback, a top 11 quarterback now in 4 straight games. So when you have a matchup up against a Detroit Lions defense that is the 8th best matchup for the quarterback position in a game that may be the highest scoring matchup of the week, you got to feel good about Baker. Then we got Draco May, the Iceman, going up against the Tennessee Titans in Tennessee, the revenge game for Mr. Mike Vrabel. Now, the problem with a spot like this is really just that if the Patriots are bringing the boom, if they're laying the haymakers to the Tennessee Titans early on, they're not going to have to pass the ball a ton late in the game, and Drake may end up having a good game on the field. But when you actually look back, he has a kind of midday for fantasy because of just how inept the Tennessee Titans are as a whole. I get they got rid of their head coach, so maybe now things are going to flourish, things are going to percolate, but I wouldn't bet on that. Great matchup here, though, in my opinion. Like, I don't think anyone is really all that scared of the Tennessee Titans defense. I understand that technically on paper, this is a bad matchup for quarterbacks, but I'm not personally worried about Drake May in this spot. We saw Kayshon Boutte, Demario Douglas ball out last week where Drake May was the quarterback number 2. So while I do have some slight I can't fucking say that word. Reservation. Well, I'm a little bit worried about the fact that this is going to be a B2A, a belt-to-ass matchup, and Drake May doesn't have to do the most. Based on how he's performed this season, you have to be feeling good about him. He has been a top 8 quarterback in 4 of 6 games this season. Then we got Caleb Williams to close things out, going up against the New Orleans Saints that we just saw Drake May put up a big game up against that Saints defense. Caleb Williams has looked considerably better this season compared to last year. Obviously, the change at coach definitely could play a big factor with Ben Johnson being there coming out the bye week. The offense looked fantastic up against the Washington Commanders. So with Caleb Williams having DJ Moore back healthy, obviously has win in Rome, Odunze. They have the emergence potentially of Luther Burden. I feel very good about Caleb Williams going forward, and it kind of feels like a locked and loaded top 10 option moving down the rest of the season. And in a matchup that is the 7th best for the quarterback position, I feel very good about Caleb. Now we move on into the 3rd tier here, the low-end quarterback number 1s. Now, if you have any of these guys that we've talked about thus far, again, I get that they're organized into different tiers. I feel very good about all of these guys. The further and further you get down the rankings, the more and more there becomes questions. Now, Justin Herbert, the pervert, going up against the Indianapolis Colts. Now, last week up against the Dolphins, Justin Herbert shoved the dagger into my heart as a Dolphins fan. I think the Dolphins should have won that game. I think if the Dolphins defense knew how to wrap it up, then we would have ended up winning that game. But instead, Justin Herbert pulls a fucking Taylor Swift and shakes Jalen Phillips off and throws the dagger to Ladd McConkey. It's sickening to watch as a fan of the team, especially since my Hurricanes got absolutely railroaded last night by Louisiana Fast, the fucking Popeyes team, Louisiana. Shout out to, who is the coach there? Rick Pitino? Take them to strip clubs and the casinos. Shout out to Rick Pitino. Justin Herbert going up against the Colts. I'm excited to see what happens here, especially with the offensive line reportedly to be more healthy. This hasn't been a great season for Herbert in fantasy football. Quarterback 5, 18, 12, 20, 20, and 14. He has been reliable, though. He's been getting you at least 15 plus points every single week. And with the weapons they have in this offense to his disposal, I think he could easily drop 30 fucking fantasy points, and it wouldn't surprise me at all. In terms of a matchup, going up against the Colts is a mid-range one. The 19th best matchup at the quarterback position. So while Herbert hasn't been the best this season as a whole for fantasy, I do think you can rely upon him. Then we got the other quarterback in this game, Danny Dimes. Throw it on a dime like I ain't even trying. Shout out to Trace McSorley of the what team is Trace McSorley even in the NFL anymore? Shout out to Daniel Jones, Danny Dimes of the Indianapolis Colts going up against the LA Superchargers. Comeback game last week up against the Arizona Cardinals, played significantly better than he had over the last two games. Quarterback number 4 up against the Arizona Cardinals this week, facing the Chargers in a bottom matchup, the 25th best matchup for the quarterback position. But again, when you have a guy that you're very confident with his offensive line, you're very confident with his playmakers, you're very confident in his ability to run the football and get rushing touchdowns, then I do just have to feel pretty good about ranking Danny Dimes top 12 every single week. Then we got Bo Nix. Now, Bo Nix is a guy that has been very, very, very frustrating this season. Not frustrating because he has just been so dog shit that you are wishing you could go back in time and stop yourself from drafting him. But based on where you drafted him, you have been disappointed based upon the production that he has given you. Just 2 games so far inside the top 12 through the first 6 weeks of the season. But going up against the Giants, if Jackson Dart is able to keep up, this could be a high-scoring game. This is the 14th best matchup for quarterbacks. Again, Bo Nix hasn't really completely fucked you over this season. He just hasn't been as good as we expected him to be, but in a fine enough matchup, he should be able to finish inside of the top 12. Then we got Justin Fields of the New York Jumbo Jets going up against the Carolina Panthers. Now, speaking of fucking you in the ass, that is exactly what Justin Fields did last week. I am still walking with the limp after starting him up against the Denver Broncos in London. He is the quarterback 9 of 17 for 45 yards. I got a Colt 45 and 2 zigzags, 7 rushes for 31 yards after being a top 7 quarterback in back-to-back games the weeks prior. Now, Justin Fields is a guy that you should never be shocked when he has a disaster class like that, right? No one should have been watching the game in London and been like, wow, I can't believe Justin Fields just did that, right? Because we know that is who Justin Fields is deep down. The ceiling is the moon. The ceiling is astronomical when you have a guy that can rush as effectively as Justin Fields, and you have a guy that can get as many garbage time points as Justin Fields. But last week, we didn't even get close to garbage time because the game was so close. Going up against the Panthers, if the Panthers offense is able to purr, the Panthers offense is able to go crazy, shout out to Sir Purr, the mascot of the team, then we might be able to get the garbage time kid Justin Fields to be very involved. The 18th best matchup at the quarterback position. So while I am not the most confident in Justin Fields right now, I do think he has been really good this season, and he's been so good that I'm willing to fall into the potential trap here yet again. Losing Garrett Wilson does definitely suck, though. Now we move into the high-end quarterback twos with Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, Jared Goff, the Goffinator, and Jackson Dart. Before we talk about the rest of the quarterbacks in today's video, as well as the tight ends, though, I would like to give you guys a quick word for our friends and our partner over at Underdog. If you're brand new to Underdog and sign up using promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description, you'll receive a free pick plus a first-time deposit offer of up to $1,000 in bonus funds, as well as if you play $5 in the pick'em, you receive an additional $100 in bonus funds or in bonus entries. If you don't know how the pick'em works, it's incredibly simple. You make at least 2 picks on the higher or the lower. If both the picks hit, you get paid. If you do multiple other picks, the payout will be higher, but all of the picks need to hit. So make sure you guys do check that out. Promo code Notorious or by clicking on the link in the video description. Back on into things here. We got tier number 4, the high-end quarterback twos with Jordan, love me tender, love me sweet, Jared Goff, as well as Jackson Dart. Now, Jordan Love has been a very good quarterback this season. If you watch the games, you will see that, hey, Jordan Love looks pretty good. But I will note that just because Jordan Love looks great on the field doesn't mean he's a great fantasy producer. For one, he doesn't have a very clear number one weapon, and for two, when you have a defense that can play as well as the Green Bay Packers, you don't necessarily need to throw the ball a ton late in the game in order for a guy like Jordan Love to inflate his stats. So when Jordan Love finishes in a game like this up against the Arizona Cardinals, in a game where you would think that he would be able to have at least a good enough game to finish inside the top 12 in the 22nd best matchup, he is far from a guarantee to do that. Now, he should be able to flirt with being a top 18 quarterback. He should be able to potentially, if Kyler Murray can threaten in this game, for it to be able to have Jordan Love to finish as top 8 quarterback. I think that is possible, but based on what we have seen this season, why should we rank him any higher than this? Because he doesn't need to put on the cape like his name was Clark Kent the Superman in order for the team to win. Then we move to Jared Goff going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, I love Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff is a much better quarterback than anyone gives him credit for. But I will say that Jared Goff is another one of these guys where he is going to play very good on the field, right? He is not going to make a lot of crazy decisions that are bad that will jeopardize the team, but he doesn't need to throw 3+ touchdowns for them to win. They could run the ball a ton and score the touchdowns that way. We've seen this multiple times this season, especially like up against the Ravens, where they're in a barn burner matchup back in week number 3, where Jared Goff finishes just as the quarterback 23. He played amazing in that game. He played great football, but because he doesn't have to throw for 3, 4, 5 touchdowns, especially up against the Bucs, right? We expect this to be a high-scoring game. We expect this to be a tit-for-tat, rock'em sock'em robots game. Quarterback 11th, the 11th best matchup for quarterbacks, and Jared Goff might not even be a top 18 guy. Then we move to Jackson Dart going up against the Denver Broncos. Now, we just saw how the other New York quarterback fared up against the Denver Broncos defense, and that was not very good. Very, 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 very bad if you played Justin Fields. Jackson Dart just ripped the Eagles from, they just ripped them apart. Jack the Ripper style. Quarterback 3 in that game. Can he do it again up against the Denver Broncos? Ultimately, I don't think so. 31st best matchup for the quarterbacks. So that's why I don't have him ranked as a top 12 quarterback. I know the upside is there with all the rushing, but it feels very scary. Then we got Matthew Stafford, Sam Darnold, CJ Stroud, and Trevor Lawrence as the mid-range quarterback 2s. Matthew Stafford was riding dirty. Gotta catch me riding dirty, riding hot from weeks 4 through 5. And then last week, it all fell apart up against the Baltimore Ravens. That offense looked completely inept in that game. They looked shook. They looked like they had no idea how to move the ball. Now they don't have Puka Nacua going up against the Jacksonville Jaguars defense in a game that isn't in the United States, which, again, I always talk about. Hey, those games are a little bit fucked up. Those are games that you might expect. Hey, Jaguars, Rams, we're going to see a potential very high-scoring game. We're going to see a very fun game. And then the game ends up being a bit of a stinker. That happens all the time. 9th best matchup, though, for quarterbacks. So I think Stafford should bounce back. But losing Puka is a huge blemish and one of the biggest reasons as to why I don't have him ranked higher. Then we got Sam Darnold, Mono Man Sam, going up against the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans are the worst matchup for a quarterback on a per-game basis. Now, Sam Darnold has been reliable so far this season. Outside of week 1, where he scored just 5 fantasy points up against the 49ers, he has scored more than 16 points in every single matchup and has scored 20-plus points now in back-to-back games. So while the matchup on paper is scary, Sam Darnold has continued to put up big numbers this season and been a reliable asset for you. This doesn't feel like the kind of game where who we're about to talk about next, who's also in this game, where Sam Darnold goes out there and scores 20-plus fantasy points. It feels more like 16 to 18 points, where if you played Sam Darnold, he doesn't screw you over, but Sam Darnold also isn't the reason why you win your week. That's kind of how I feel about all these guys inside of this tier. Then we got CJ Stroud, who recently has come alive over the last 2 weeks. The first 3 weeks of the season, it was like if you were playing CJ Stroud, you were really praying for something to miraculously occur to where he could throw 2 touchdowns, because he didn't do that a single time through the first 3 games of the season. Last week, 4 touchdowns. The week prior, 2 touchdowns. No turnovers in back-to-back games now. The offensive line is a humongous concern for me every single week. When you have an offensive line like the Houston Texans that is just as useless as it gets, that is something that is very, very concerning when the quarterback doesn't have a lot of time to throw the ball to a playmaker like Nico Collins. And the other wide receiver core outside of that just doesn't seem like they have a true number 2 weapon. I wouldn't be shocked if maybe they go out there and you see more of the rookies at this point coming out the bye week, but it also still might be Christian Kirk, who just doesn't look the best at this point in his career. But based on what CJ Stroud did prior to the bye week as the quarterback one up against the Ravens in Baltimore, and based upon the fact that I do like this matchup as the 13th best matchup at the quarterback position, I'm willing to take the chance this week on Stroud. Then we got Trevor Lawrence going up against the LA Rams. Again, this one is in the United Kingdom. Now, again, anytime the game is not in the United States of America, things end up going a little bit wacky. The players might not be on the correct clock. And the field of play might not be as good, the playing surface. So there's a lot of question marks anytime they go overseas. Again, on paper, if this one was in Duval, because it is a Jacksonville Jaguars home game, then I think we would have potentially seen one of the better games of the week. Because it's in the United Kingdom, I'm a little bit more concerned. Back-to-back games inside the top 13. He has a significantly better connection now with Brian Thomas Jr., so I do have my hopes up, but again, I don't want to inflate him too much. Now we move into tier number 6, and this is essentially the range where you are just praying to the football gods above that it magically ends up working. If you have to pull all the way down into this range, you are just praying that something goes your way. Mac Jones, Bryce Young, Kyler Murray. I love Mac Jones. Mac Jones has looked incredible in 3 or 4 games this season. He even looked good last week up against the Buccaneers. Just couldn't find the end zone and threw 2 interceptions. I would say that this is a clear bounce back spot, right? Because I didn't think going into this year the Atlanta Falcons would be one of the hardest matchups for quarterbacks, but they are. The defense had Josh Allen seeing ghosts like his name was Sam Darnold. He had Josh Allen. They had Josh Allen fucking shook to the core. So while I think Mac Jones is good, and I think the offense is going to be fine under Mac Jones, it's not much different when you compare Mac Jones to Big Cock Brock Purdy. But based on what we've seen out the Falcons, again, you need a prayer to the fantasy gods for this one to work. Then we got Bryce Young going up against the New York Jumbo Jets. The Carolina Panthers have started to look better, but do we trust them? Do we trust them? And while I do trust Rico, while I do trust Chuba Hubbard, do I trust Bryce Young? Fuck no, baby. Going up against the Jets, right? We have seen the Jets defense. They looked better last week, but again, that game was overseas. A little fugazi. 12th best matchup for quarterbacks. I think we could see Bryce Young play like last week, where he was the quarterback 12 up against Dallas. But even in a wet dream, life is but a dream. Up against the Dolphins the week prior, he was the quarterback 24, right? The guy that just has 2 games outside the top 12 this year, every other game outside of the top 20. So very, very boom or bust, but I do like the matchup. Quick update, I'm editing this, and the news came out that Kyler Murray is going to be out and Jacoby Brissett is going to be in. If you have to play Jacoby Brissett, I think he's okay to rank around this range, but again, I don't really love him. I didn't love Kyler this week either, going up against the Green Bay Packers, but you might be wondering, like, Nick, why is he in the graphic on the screen? And why did you mention Kyler Murray at the beginning of the tier? That is why. So now that he is out, we're obviously not going to waste 2 minutes yapping about him. Back to the video. Now we move on into the tight end position here. So if you guys have enjoyed today's video thus far, make sure you guys uppercut that subscribe button like it owes you some money. Trey McBride is my tight end 1. My top end tight end 1s is Trey McBride, Tyler Warren, Jake Ferguson, and Tucker Kraft mac and cheese. Yeah. Tyler Almost called him Tyler McBride, but we're talking about Tyler Warren after this. Trey McBride. Top 12 tight end in all games except for one. Last week, by God, the man found the end zone. I don't know if anyone else just gets a little bit of tingle downstairs when Trey McBride finds the end zone, because Trey McBride is a guy that's allergic to the end zone. He's the kind of guy that's sick every couple weeks because he gets close to the end zone and his body just completely shuts down. But he scored 2 this season through 6 games, so round of applause for Mr. Trey McBride. Found the end zone last week, 8 of 11 for 72 yards and a tug as the tight end number 2. With Jacoby Brissett, is Jacoby Brissett better than Kyler Murray? No. He's not. Don't get fooled into that. Now, in terms of a matchup for the tight end going up against the Green Bay Packers, this is the 4th best matchup at tight end. So while the Packers defense, you assume is very good, they're pretty soft up against the tight end. And with McBride being one of the best tight ends in the NFL, you're just always going to start him. Same thing's the case with Tyler Warren, right? It doesn't really matter what the matchup is. You are going to start him, right? This is a guy that I banged the drum for in the summer. I talked about how I think if you don't get one of those early round tight ends, you kind of want to go ahead and scoop up Tyler Warren late. And I'm so glad that I gave out that advice. All games inside the top 12, except for 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4 of 6 games inside the top 7. 3 weeks in a row inside the top 11. I'm feeling mighty fine about Mr. Tyler Warren going up against the LA Chargers defense. Even though Warren has one of the worst matchups for tight ends this week, I simply just don't give a fuck. So we're going to rank him this highly, and I don't think you should really care either. Then we got Jake Ferguson, Fergalicious, going up against the Washington Commanders. CeeDee Lamb going to be back. Does that hurt Jake Ferguson? Yes. Does it hurt him enough to where I'm running fully away? No. In terms of a matchup up against the Washington Commanders, this is the 21st best matchup, so not the most ideal, but when you've been a top 10 tight end now in 5 straight games, top 5 tight end in 4 of the last 5 games, I'm going to play you, especially in a game that I think could be the highest scoring game of the week. Then we got Tucker Kraft mac and cheese. Now, Tucker Kraft has been all over the place. You got mud on your face, you big disgrace, kicking your can all over the place. Up and down. Left and right. Tight end 17, tight end 1, tight end 26, tight end 15, tight end 11 last week. Tucker Kraft is the best red zone weapon on this team. He is the best red zone weapon that they could pass the ball to, I guess, because, Josh Jacobs, very good as well. Inside of the red zone, inside of the goal line work as well. This is the 7th best matchup for a tight end. Tucker Kraft has been, again, while he's been up and down, he scored more than 10 points in every game outside of one, so they're going to keep rocking with that with the upside that he possesses. Now we move into tier number 2, which is going to be the mid-range tight end ones with Sam Laporta, Dallas Goedert, George Kittle-Timbers, as well as Travis Kelce. Sam Laporta is on a absolute tear as of right now. Tight end 4 in back-to-back games. Can he keep it up? I don't think so, right? Because you have Amon-Ra, you have Jameson Williams, who does the disappearing act for a lot of the season. You also have Jahmyr Gibbs. You also have David Montgomery. So there's a lot of cooks in the kitchen here. But when a guy is riding as hot as a guy like Sam Laporta, we talk about this all the time throughout the years. It's the NBA Jam rule. When a guy catches on fire, you want to keep playing him. Sam Laporta is on fire, NBA Jam style, so I'm going to keep rocking with him, especially in a matchup that, again, we love this Bucks versus the Detroit Lions matchup. Just for the amount of points that should be scored, the 13th best matchup for tight ends. Again, Sam Laporta's on a heater. We're going to keep rocking with him. Then we got Dallas Goedert. Now, Dallas Goedert's another guy that I do not expect remotely for him to be able to keep up this amount of scoring. I would be perplexed if he scored a touchdown every single week for the rest of the season. Because, over the last 4 games, the guy has scored 5 touchdowns and a touchdown in every single game. But recently, since they've started to throw the ball to him a lot more, it does seem like he at least feels way safer now. Because earlier on, week 3, week 4, he gets 2 targets, 4 targets. He scores a touchdown or multiple touchdowns. That's why he has the big game, right? But last week, he had 9 receptions on 11 targets for 110 yards and the touchdown. So if he's going to be getting 7+ targets, weekly, he could become very, very reliable even if he doesn't end up finding the end zone. This is a above average matchup for the tight end, the 14th best matchup up against the cold like Minnesota Vikings. So again, just like Sam Laporta, Dallas Goedert is fucking on fire. I need to get a fire extinguisher to put the man out. We're going to keep rocking with them. Then we got George Kittle, the return from the grave, like the fucking Undertaker in the WWE. Hamstring injury will play on Sunday. Welcome back, Mr. George Kittle. I have missed you. A lot of you guys have missed him. Starts off the year as the tight end 10, gets hurt up against the Seahawks. Now he's back, baby, after a long time missing him. Now I get, Nick, aren't you a little concerned that he's coming off the injury? Maybe you want to be a little bit scared. Maybe you want to be nervous, right? He's playing up against the Falcons. That they're the worst matchup for tight ends. Nick, aren't you scared? Aren't you a little bit scared? Of course I'm a little bit scared. But you didn't draft George Kittle in the 3rd or 4th fucking round to sit him when he comes back off of an injury. You are firing him up with supreme confidence. Final guy in here, Taylor Swift's husband, Travis Kelce, Mr. Kelce. Tight end 9, tight end 5 in back-to-back games. Can he keep it up with Rashee Rice back? I'm not sure. I don't know if he can do it. But what I do know one thing, though. Women, they come, they go. Saturday through Sunday, Monday. Shout out to Eminem. I think that's an Eminem lyric. Maybe it's not. Maybe that's a Drake lyric. Slim Shady. Wicka wicka Slim Shady. Travis Kelce has been fine this season. Has he been pristine? Like that auction house where you can buy stuff? That would be a good plug if I had a code, but I don't, so don't check them out. Check out Underdog, promo code Notorious. But Travis Kelce going up against the Las Vegas Raiders. Now, the Raiders matchup on paper for tight ends is no bueno. Rashee Rice coming back is no bueno for Travis Kelce, but the offense will be able to move the ball more, so realistically, he should be able to find the end zone maybe more reliably. Starting to panic a little bit on Kelce, but he's played good enough this season to be ranked here. Now we move into tier number 3, and this is going to be the low-end tight end 1s to the high-end tight end 2s. This is kind of really the last tier, where if I'm playing these guys, it's okay, right? After this, it's like so bad, in my opinion. Like, I am really, really scared if I don't have one of these top 14 tight ends. Darren Waller, K. Dotton, Harold Fannin, Mason Taylor, Zach Ertz, and Hunter Henry. Darren Waller potentially dealing with big rain. The biggest rain, let me tell you. 65 degrees, 28 mile per hour wind. They're talking about gusts of 50 mile an hour winds. So if anyone is like built like a fucking stick, and built like the here I come, I am Cindy Mon guy, and you're going to this game in Cleveland, you might get blown away, so be careful. Fucking anchor yourself to the ground, because this is dangerous. This is some dangerous weather, and we ain't talking about Mr. Unlimited. Darren Waller has been very nice. All 3 starts, touchdown or more in all 3 starts, 4 total touchdowns through 3 games. If it is windy, if it is really rainy, if they throw the ball, because they're going to have to throw the ball, right? You can't just run the ball every single play. Maybe the Browns will, but I don't think the Dolphins will. Darren Waller, get him open over the middle and fucking feed the guy. I'm very, 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 very scared to the 30th power of this matchup. So take it with a grain of salt. When we see what it actually looks like on Sunday, when we see the weather report and we see before the game, it's raining sideways, then we want to panic on Darren Waller. But as of right now, if, we're still a day out, there's still things to, so put an asterisk in Mr. Waller. And we got K. Dotton going up against the Detroit Lions in Detroit. We have no idea right now who the fuck is playing for the Buccaneers. Mike Evans could be in. Egbuka could be in. Or none of them could be in, which is kind of feels like it's trending towards. So K. Dotton should be very involved if that is the case. Back-to-back weeks with 5+ targets. Back-to-back week with top 18 finishes. I think K. Dotton does have a very high ceiling in this offense with how good Baker Mayfield has played, especially in a matchup that could be as high scoring as this one. In terms of a matchup at tight end, it's the mid-range matchup, the 18th best matchup at tight end, but I do still think K. Dotton should have a relatively good day. Then we got Harold Fannin. Now again, put an asterisk in this one. Put a post-it note on this one. If it's not as windy as we project, it's going to be great. If not, I really worry even without David Njoku. But again, he should get all the easy looks. So even if the ball is getting thrown and fucking hooking, it's slicing like you're playing golf, I still think Harold Fannin could have a good enough game. But again, I will share my true opinion tomorrow. I probably still would play him in this range because, again, I would rather just YOLO chance it on Darren Waller or Harold Fannin over a lot of the guys that we're going to talk about below this, but I am scared. Then we got Mason Taylor. No Garrett Wilson means Mason Taylor, ham, egg, and cheese, is going to be the tight end 1 in this offense. And obviously, I mean, he was ready the tight end 1, the number 1 target in this offense, going up against the Panthers. Matchup that on paper would be GTA style, a 5-star matchup. Third best matchup for the tight end position. Mason Taylor screwed the pooch last week. I talked up Mason Taylor. Said, I don't care about the Denver Broncos. Everything's going to be fine. Don't you fucking worry. Don't you worry, child. Mason Taylor's got a plan for you. And that shit ain't work, right? It's like when you go to the store and you forget to transfer money from your checking to your savings account, or the opposite, the savings to the checking account, and then you go to buy a fucking Hershey bar and the thing gets declined and you look like a broke son of a bitch, right? That is how it felt. My card got declined on Mason Taylor last week, but I mean, the guy had 12 targets just 2 weeks ago, so not going to panic. I like him against the Panthers. Then we got Zach Ertz. My ball, Zach Ertz, one of the funniest names in fantasy football 7 years ago, but people still use it to this day, and I still respect it because I find stupid jokes like that funny. 6'7", Zach Ertz, shoulder/calf listed as questionable. No Terry McLaurin. Debo really hurt. We might have to drop Debo down the rankings. Things aren't sounding very, very positive for Debo having a full workload. Taking that full load, pause. We saw Zach Ertz shine bright like a diamond last week as the tight end 5. I don't necessarily think, based on what we've seen this season, he's going to be Mr. Reliable. But with Jaden Daniels, he's been scoring. So, gotta like Zach Ertz. Then we got Hunter Henry. Now, Hunter Henry's been another one of these guys that is just all over the place, right? Back in week 3, he was the tight end 1. The week prior to that, he was the tight end 44, right? Last 2 weeks, tight end 32, 28. Draco Iceman May has this offense looking magnifique, perfection, right? Looking beautiful, sexy. Shout out to Bruno Tagnoli. But I am still very, 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 very worried about just his usage, right? If he has 8 targets this week, would you be shocked? No. If he had 3 targets this week, would I be shocked? No. And that puts you in a very, 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 very scary place. Now, in terms of a matchup, this isn't the best one either, so can't really rank him much higher than this. Now we got the YOLO tier. That's the motto. This is where you are just praying to the gods above. Please let one of these guys score. Michael Mayer, it's Halloween time, so Michael Myers got to come out here. Tight end 6 last week up against the Les Titans. Geno Smith plays like he needs that surgery that Jameis Winston got, the LASIK eye surgery, because it seems like he just can't tell what color jersey he should be throwing the ball to. Michael Mayer, though, him and Geno apparently have a good connection. 5 of 7 for 50 yards and a tug last week as the tight end 6. Going up against the Chiefs in terms of a matchup, this is one of the worst. They should be down, though, and down bad, having to throw. So, again, while these guys aren't the best options, the further and further you get, like, to the players that we're not going to be talking about today's video, these guys are way better than those guys. Then we got Kyle Pitts going up against the San Francisco 49ers in Santa Clara on Sunday Night Football. This is the 20th best matchup for tight ends. Do I love it? No. Do I love Kyle Pitts? No. But we've seen very high highs, and if Michael Penix can lock in here, this could be a at least decently scoring enough game to where Pitts could find the end zone. Then we got TJ Hawkinson going up against the Eagles. I have no fucking idea what is wrong with Hawkinson. I have no idea why he's not getting more looks. Maybe Carson Wentz gets him involved here to where he finishes good enough. But again, I wouldn't expect greatness out of Hawkinson. Then we got Evan Ingram, just another guy I don't really expect much from. Now, this is a revenge game, Reggie. This is a revenge game up against the Giants. The Giants that had this motherfucker. Oh, nope, that would be a Darren Waller revenge game. I was going to say where he's got him playing as a fullback, but this is a revenge game for Evan Ingram. They didn't believe in you, Evan Ingram. Y'all know who did? The Jacksonville Jaguars. And then you know who didn't believe in you in the summer? The Jacksonville Jaguars. So now Evan Ingram is on the Denver Broncos. As yet, to truly, really make that big splash, but he's been better over the last 2 weeks with 10 plus PPR points in both games. In terms of a matchup up against the Giants, this is one that is a below average matchup, so not expecting the most here. But again, once you get into this range, you're kind of just throwing shit at the wall and hoping that it sticks. Final guy to discuss is the other tight end in this game, Theo Johnson, going up against the Denver Broncos in Mile High. Theo Johnson is touchdown or bust. 3 touchdowns over the last 3 games. 2 touchdowns in week 5, 1 touchdown in week 4, no touchdowns. Dikembe, no touchdown last week up against the Eagles, and he scores 5 fantasy points. If he doesn't score a touchdown, you are going to leave as disappointed as it gets. But if he does score, you'll feel good. So thank you guys all so much for watching. If you ended up enjoying, make sure you guys hit that subscribe button, like it owes you some money. Leave a like on today's video to help me out a ton. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. Love you guys more than you will ever know. Hope you have a great one. As always, good boy.